Okay, we're going to call him Trader Jeff. Mr. Jeff Weltman, president of basketball operations for the Orlando Magic, kind enough to join us here on ESPN Afternoons with Scott and Ez. So last year, I remember you being on the NBA queue, like on hold for the trade that you made with Elfrid Payton for about 4 hours. How long did it take this year, Jeff?
That's a good question, Scott. You know, once we kind of have the agreement, Pete D'Alessandro and Stephen Mervis, who are in our cap management group, are the ones that handle that stuff. But I can tell you that we couldn't even discuss it until halftime of the game last night. So, you know, you take from 3 o'clock as a deadline, and you know, that'd probably be about 8:30. So
yeah. Well, we got to figure out a better way to do that with the NBA, but that's for another day. Okay,
I'll let you work that out.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll have a conversation with Mr. Silver. All right, so you make the trade for Markelle Fultz of the Sixers, Jonathan Simmons, first round pick of OKC, and a second to Philadelphia. Why make this move, Mr. Weltman?
I think that it speaks for itself. It's obviously, as I've said before, I'll let others assess the risk. You know, obviously what we gave up, I'll let them determine the value of that package. But there's no question about the reward. I mean, the whole league regards Markelle Fultz as, you know, number one, number two, number three pick in that draft. Most people, I would say, number one. But the chance that this kid has to become an elite level player is still at age 20, and a kid of high character who's going to work and go through everything that he needs to do to get there we felt, you know, clearly worthwhile venture for us, and obviously we're going to do everything we can to get him where he needs to get.
Well, and judging by the phone calls and the texts and the tweets I've gotten over the last few days, I would think that 95% of Magic fans out there agree with you. I know that really probably doesn't matter in your book, but a lot of Magic fans are excited about this, and it's obvious. I mean, the kid is a talent. He's a top overall draft pick, just 20 months ago? But the question about the kid is this thing, whatever it is it in his head? Is it a physical thing? I know he's been diagnosed with the thoracic outlet syndrome. I'm assuming you did your homework, Jeff, on what the source of all of that is, huh?
Yeah, we've done a lot of homework, a lot of background, a lot of intel. Obviously, we had a whole library of intel to begin with, even from the draft. And the reports even then were glowing about his character and his work ethic and his teammateness and everything that you want in a guy. But obviously, there's a whole new round now of background to do. And yeah, we've done a lot of due diligence. We've spoken to a lot of medical people. We've spoken to people in and around the organization. We've spoken to people in and around the city. And look, man, the bottom line is, you know, we get all this information. Nobody quite has a grasp on it, but it comes down to this. You have to believe in the person. And, you know, this is a guy who we believe in, you know, from going back to our draft intel and everything that we've heard as he's worked his way through this process that he's dealing with now. We believe in him as a player. We believe in him as a person. And I always say, Scotty, until you get your arms around the guy, until you sit with him and understand what he's going through, everything else is just gossip. You know, it's all just kind of speculation. So we have to go through it ourselves, experience it ourselves, and then we'll know. But we felt that, you know, given the opportunity to embrace a player like this into our family, into our team, is just, you know, well worth it.
Trader Jeff, Mr. Jeff Weltman, president of basketball operations here on ESPN Afternoons with Scott and Ez. Are you confident, Jeff, with the medical team that you have, with the clinical team that you have, with the front office that you have established now, the culture, if you will? I know you don't like the C word, but the culture that you have established here in Orlando over the last year and a half, are you confident you can get this kid out of whatever he's in?
Listen, you know, this business is no different than any other business. It's about people. And I always talk to you about how, you know, we're talking about this player or that player, but I always try to bring into the conversation how we're fortifying the organization, you know, in every corner, from analytics to performance to player development, coaching, everything. And you can't make a trade like this unless you have the supreme confidence in your people and our ability as a group to hug him, to communicate with him, and to put him in the best position to succeed. And that's a lot of the iceberg under the water, so to speak, that goes into building a good organization. And, as with anything, we're not all the way there, but I do believe that we're making significant progress. And without that sort of backbone in the organization, I think that something like this would be a lot harder to look at. But I do believe in our people, and I think that they're going to help Markelle get where he needs to get.
Well said. Jeff Weltman here on ESPN Afternoons with Scott and Ez. Look, I like the deal a lot. I think Markelle Fultz is well worth what you gave up. You obviously did too, but how confident are you that, Markelle gets, as we all know, Philadelphia can be a fishbowl, right? It can be a very difficult market if you don't have things buttoned down, and now he's coming to, look out your window right now, right? It's 80 degrees. It's sunny skies. It's Orlando. It's a media market that, quite frankly, is tame compared to the pressure cooker that is Philadelphia. Do you think that will have something to do with him kind of turning things around? Do you think that will ease his mind some, Jeff?
It probably not for me to say, but I would say that, just human nature, right? Everybody needs a fresh start. Everybody needs to hit the reset button. And I think at age 20, Scott, age 20,
yeah.
Think about what this guy's been through, man. And so, yeah, I think he comes here and he doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's going to have a fan base that's going to embrace him and love him. And I think that's going to be so important to him. And, everything else that we're going to roll out for him and just put him on his own timeline. This is going to unfold at whatever timeline it unfolds, and we're going to let that happen naturally, and we're going to give him everything he needs to succeed. And I do believe that, don't we all need a fresh start once in a while, and I do think that, I've already spoken to him, and I know that he does see it that way. So I think that our fans are going to embrace him. And the other thing is, I think that when our fans get to know him a little bit, without talking about the fact that he is an elite level talent in this league, he's also a special kid. And, he's respectful, he's humble, he's a hard worker, he loves to play basketball, he's a great teammate, he really cares about others. And, I always say that, that it's not just about the player, it's about the person. And, when we talk in the draft room, in the war room about, is this guy one of us? And Markelle is one of us, and so I think that we're just hopeful that this marriage with the city and our fans and the reset button that this is presenting for him are going to put him in a place to succeed.
So last we heard about Markelle and his rehab, Jeff. We heard from his agent at Christmas time that the rehab continued and that he expected to play at some point in time this season. Are we going to get to see Markelle Fultz in a Magic uniform at some point this year, Jeff?
Yeah, Scott, that's a great question. Obviously, that's kind of the question that everyone wants answered. Mm-hmm. I just can't answer that right now. This is going to happen the way it happens, and as I always say, we're going to do it right. We're not going to do it fast, and I think this is the epitome of that. And until we kind of sit down with Markelle, understand what he's going through, where he sees himself, at what step of his progression he's kind of entering now. We won't be able to answer those questions, but as those things reveal themselves, then whatever schedule that puts him on is the one that we'll follow.
All right. Jeff Weltman is here, ESPN Afternoons with Scott and Ez. Tell me about your rookie, Mo Bamba. Obviously, some bad news earlier this week, the stress fracture in the lower left leg. He did have a procedure earlier this week. Tell us about Mo, the prognosis, and whether we may see Mo later on this season, Jeff.
Yeah, well, to answer the last part of your question first, that I'm not sure about.
Yep.
We'll see as he responds to treatment. It was very minor. He basically has a stress fracture in his right shin, and it's luckily, again, our performance staff did an excellent job to catch this at a very early stage. So there was nothing surgical required. He basically got an injection. And so he'll have treatment, and he'll have to stay off it, most importantly, for at least a month. And then we'll see how it responds. But this is not anything that's going to affect him going forward, provided that we don't rush him back. Mm-hmm. So we will not rush him back. We'll make sure that this is entirely healed. And if it's healed in time for him to play this year, then that'll be the case. And if not, then then he won't play this year. But we'll check that as it comes. In the meantime, again, this is where having a good organization matters. And so we've already met departmentally about how we can take advantage of this time for him, time that a player who's playing and preparing for games every day during the season wouldn't otherwise have, to show him, he can chart on the bench for the coaches. He can be in some of their meetings. He can meet with our dietitian. Our performance guys are going to obviously devise a different sort of plan for him as he has to not weight bear for the first month. So all of these things are things that we're working on to try to develop him in whatever way we can and make this a positive.
Okay, final question. We'll let you go, boss. Nick Vucevic is here. Terrence Ross is here. The trade deadline is now passed. We can move forward and go on this 3-game road trip that begins tomorrow night. What are your thoughts about this team? Can it make it run toward the playoffs? I know that's what you're hoping at this point. I mean, on down the line here, we only have, 30 or so games left. Can this team make a playoff run here, boss?
Well, I look at it this way, Scotty. We've been playing well lately. We've played good teams and we've given them games, and we've won a couple, and our schedule softens, down the home stretch. So can we make a run? I mean, I think we are making a run. We're 3.5 out, and we're in the conversation. And I will say that I know a lot's been talked about picking a path and all this, but listen, man, we're adding good young players to our team. There is a lot of value in a young guy waking up in the middle of March and having that practice mean something. Yep. Having that togetherness as a team, it kind of does things to you that people always talk about, like the intensity of a playoff game and how you can show that to a young guy. To me, it's more about the chase. It's more about waking up in the middle of March and the team coming together like, guys, let's do this and sacrifice. And that kind of camaraderie, that working towards a common goal late in the season when many others aren't, is a really special feeling. And I think the ability to provide that to our young guys is very valuable. Can we do it? I mean, we're doing it now. We're 3.5 out, and I think we're in the hunt, and hopefully we can remain there. We'll see.
Well said, boss. I know there are a lot of Magic fans grinning from ear to ear right now. We look forward to having Markelle Fultz as part of the family. And Jeff, thank you, my man. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you down the road. All right?
Always, Scotty. Thank you. Take care.
President of Basketball Operations, Jeff Weltman.